Okay, today I want to talk about PCR or premium capture rate. This is an important concept, and some people probably don't understand it correctly. And I think it's important that we go over that because this is the basis for any strategy creation or for any long-term success. You need to understand not just what premium capture rate is, but also the implications of it, and also some additional points that I'll bring today that I don't think many people are considering when they're comparing different strategies. I will get into that. But first, let's just define what the premium capture rate is. Premium capture rate is basically a long-term expectations of the profit that you will keep from the premium sold. This is, generally speaking, applies to premium selling. And for any dollar or any number of dollars that we sell over a long period of time, we will get to keep certain percentage of that money. Obviously, we will never keep 100% of money. So we're gonna get to the more precise number and how we arrive to that number. It is important to understand that you can only calculate PCR properly if you have a large number of occurrences. You can't just take 10 instances of a trade and then try to figure something out. So you have to either use your long-term trading log and or backtesting software to come up with some more realistic numbers. And we're going to try and run a couple of scenarios here just to get there. But it's important to understand that premium capture rate is what the number that your strategy will converge on over a long period of time, over many occurrences. That means that you will sometimes run higher and sometimes you will run lower, but there is going to be an average that you can expect long term. Let's just create a scenario for a couple of different trades, a couple of different parameters for similar trades, just to see the different PCR that we can get from. To calculate any PCR for any strategy, you need just a few things. You need the winning rate, and let me write that down. You need a winning rate in percentage. You will need a profit take percentage, and you profit target or profit take, and you will need either stop loss percentage that you take, and it's obviously much easier to calculate if you implement a stop loss, but you can also do the same thing if you don't have a stop loss. You just have to be able to figure out what your average loss is over a long period of time. So it's going to be a little bit harder. You will need a little bit more data, and it's going to be, it's going to take a little bit longer time to calculate, to converge on that, but you can still do it. Keep in mind that any trading strategy has a certain premium capture rate. And even if you mix different strategies, you can still come up with something and you can average it down. So it's always possible to do. And it's very important that you do it so that you understand what your long-term expectation is and that you understand if you're running hot for the period of time, nothing is wrong with that. And same thing goes when you're running cold and you're underperforming. It's not necessarily wrong. So let's get to a couple of different scenarios and see what we get, okay? I want to show you something specifically. I'm going to use my parameters for my naked puts, and then I'm going to add a couple more, and I'm going to specifically choose some that will highlight the second portion of what I was saying earlier. And this is when you're comparing different rates, you can't just go by premium capture rate alone. You have to add a certain ingredient to actually be able to compare apples to apples, and we'll add that to this. And the reason I know that a lot of people don't understand this is that I see many people still trading naked puts at 90% profit take, even 95%. And although there are certainly some instances where that makes sense, this is almost never an optimal approach long term, and I'm going to show you why. So let's start with three different trades, and let me just put here trade 1, trade 2, and trade 3. And here we're going to put win rate percentage for each. We're going to put a profit take percentage, and then we're going to put stop loss. And for this exercise here, I'm going to use a stop loss just to make things easier, simpler, faster. And I will also use a little bit rounded numbers. So it's not going to make a huge difference, but it's just going to make the presentation a little bit cleaner. It's still going to hold true. And I'm also going to exclude, for the time being, I'm going to exclude commissions. I know they play a large part in overall strategy, especially in smaller products like MES, when the commission represents a little bit larger percentage of your overall premium. But for right now, just for this, we're going to assume that all of these instances have same commission structure, and it's not going to make a huge difference. So let's start first with the trade number one, and this one, the main difference is going to be in what I said earlier, the profit take. So this one is going to have, let me see here, I put 90 and 90% profit take, and this specifically is a 9 delta. Let's say 9 delta naked put at 90 days DTE, right? And all of these are going to be about the same: 9 delta, 8-9 delta, 90 DTE to start with. The difference is going to be the win, the profit take, and the win rate. And I'm sorry, I just made a mistake here, so let me just erase this. And I wanted to say profit take here is going to be at 90%, and we're going to put this one at 200% stop loss. This is a very popular stop loss, and basically implies that you're going to close this trade if the cost of the trade becomes 3 times the initial premium that you sold. So let's say you sell it for 100 and it now costs 300, you buy it back for 300, and you're down 200% from the initial premium. And then for this one is going to have roughly 83% win rate over a long period of time. Yeah, it can be 82, it can be 84, but if you take a back test, if you combine that with some of your own data, you are going to convert somewhere around 83%, and it's not going to materially change if this was 81 or 84 or anything in that. It just goes intuitive that the higher profit take means you have a little bit a lower win rate. So at 60%, you will have a higher win rate, but you will make less per trade. The second one is going to be, this one is actually, this one is 12 delta, but again, it doesn't really matter. That's really irrelevant. And it's also 90 DTE, and this one is at 80% profit take. And this one is going to have, again, it's going to have around 83% win rate, roughly. And we're going to do a stop loss here of 200%, same as the other one. And then on third one, this is actually the one that basically I do with my naked puts. And this one is going to be around 8 delta, 90 days. And it's going to have just over 90%, but let's say 90% win rate. Profit take is at 60%, and we're going to go with 250. Not much would change if we go with 200. But let me now run some numbers, then we'll add the third and a very important component at the end. To do this, let's just, let me just see if I can just space this out. Bear with me just a second. Let me try and space this out a little bit. Okay, so all of these are naked puts, and we sell it for a certain premium, and it doesn't really matter what amount you sell it for. It's going to represent 100% initially. Okay, so let's start here, and just for clarity, we're going to sell each of these naked puts for a certain amount of premium, and that's going to be 100%. Whatever we sell it for is going to represent 100% of the premium. So it doesn't really matter how much we collected. We're looking for premium capture rate as expressed in percentages. So to start here, let's go here and show 100. This is the initial credit received. So we'll put here credit received 100. We are going to get $90 or 90%. It doesn't really matter. We can just use percentages. So we're going to get 90% of the initial premium sold, and that's going to happen 83% of the times. And that's going to be real quick. 90 times 0.83. It's going to be 74.7. Let's call it 75 just for simplicity. Then we're going to lose. In this case, we're going to lose 17% of the times. So when we lose, we're going to lose 200%. We're going to lose 2 times 100, and it's going to happen 17% of the times. So equals 17 0.17, and that's going to be 200 times 0.17 equals 34, right? So if you take 75 that we collect every time that we win minus 34, we will get to a total of 41. So this is initial premium capture rate for this particular strategy. It's 41%. All right, let's move on to the next one. This one was 83, still 83%, but we're doing 80%, 200 stop loss, and the number here would look like this. We're going to get 80% of the initial premium of the initial 100. We'll get 83% of the time. So if you take 80 times 0.83, you will get 66.4. Let's call it 65 for simplicity. All right, 65 for the win, and then for the loss, we're gonna get 200 loss, and it's gonna happen again 17.17 times. So it's gonna be same 34. And if you take 65 minus 34, you get 31. So on the surface, this one is shows a little bit lower PCR as it is. And then let's move to the third one. In this case here, again, we start with 100. We're keeping 60% this time, but it's going to happen 90% of the time. So 90% times 60, it's going to be 54. And when we lose, we're going to lose 250 times 10%, and it's going to be 25. And 54 minus 25 will give you 29. So at the moment, this one looks like the weaker PCR. And that all else equal, this would be the weakest trade. However, an important part that's missing here is days in trade. And what happens here is that on average, if you sell this particular put here, on an average, you will stay in the trade 55 days. This is not saying that that's going to happen always. Sometimes you'll be able, the market shoots higher, the VIX goes down, and maybe you close it in 25 days. But sometimes it's going to be the opposite. You're going to go against you. Going to be 60 days, 65 days. But on average, over long term, it will converge to around 55 days, where this one here will converge on a little bit less, 44. And this is intuitive as well, because you're only waiting until you collect 80% as opposed to 90, even though the rest of the parameters are similar. You're waiting a little bit less. And then finally, here, given that we're only waiting for 60%, this trade is going to have around 28 days in trade. The days in trade. And this is where the third and the very important component comes in. You have to convert this into PCR per day in order to compare different strategies. So in this particular case, you're getting 41% divided over 55 days, and that will give you roughly 0.75% per day. This one here, the next one will give you 31 over 44 days, and this is going to be 70 per day. And finally, the one that keeps the lower percentage gives you only 29%, but that will happen over 28 days on average, giving you just over 1% per day, a little bit over. So as you can see here, if you take everything into account, you will see that this final trade is superior, all else equal, is superior to the first two trades. And I think this is very important and often misunderstood, because people are more concerned with how much money they're getting per trade and ignoring the time in the trade. Because here, by the time I'm finishing this trade, I'm putting on a new one. keeping everything else equal, I'm gonna exceed overall over long term. I will exceed the premium collected. So I think this is also intuitive once you understand this PCR per day. All right. So now that we know this, what can we do with this? Well, we can look into our projections and our long-term expectations, and we can find what strategy actually works for us best and which strategy we are most comfortable with. And you can't always only look at certain parts of the trade, like winning percentage, like profit take, even stop loss, and you have to take the whole thing into consideration when you determine what your main trade is going to be. So for me, at the moment, it's roughly around 8%, anywhere between 7 and 9, because they act very similarly. And profit take is at 60%, stop loss is at 250. And also, I don't really like going under 7%. And I think I'm going to make a video about, I'm sorry, 7 delta, because the lower you go, there is some convexity that happens that you become way more susceptible to volatility increase and book wipes due to jump in VIX and a quick market pullback. So you also need to understand that the lower the delta, the higher the notional value will be required for you to keep the same amount of premium going on. So there is some advantages in going with a little bit higher delta, and you can run the numbers yourself. You can use PCR and you can add the notional value to this and then see what works for you. So if you go with the 12, 13, 14 delta, you will collect more premium initially. You will have a little bit less of the convexity issue, and you will need less trades overall to achieve whatever premium you want to collect. But there's no single best way, so it's everything is a trade-off. For me, my setup works the best, but that doesn't mean that going with a higher delta is not equally as good. And this today episode is specifically about PCR, understanding the implications of PCR. But in the next episodes, I will talk a little bit more about the additional parts of my trading system that include the put-debit spreads, and then how they actually work together with this. But here I wanted to talk a little bit about this actual PCR over time. So whatever the PCR is, let's say, is before we go there, just want to mention, so I didn't count for any slippage, any commissions, or any inability to close the trade at a certain stop loss. Like, for example, if I say here 200, the PCR calculation assumes I close it at 200 exactly. Well, occasionally you will not be able. There's gonna be a gap down or something, and you might have to close some of the trades at 250, 300, and that's gonna lower your overall PCR. So these PCRs shown here, they're a little bit optimistic, and I wouldn't use them again because of the slippage, commissions, and inability to close at a certain stop loss, predetermined stop loss. Now, so let me just also show you a little bit about this, whatever premium capture rate you take. Let's say you take this one, 29. The market will oftentimes go up for the extended periods of times. And during that time, you will be collecting the upper part here, in this case, 54%, because there is no stop losses. So you will be going what we say, you will going hot, and your PCR will be in the neighborhood of 50, 55 or something like that for extended period of time. But then occasionally the market will go down, you will reach your stop losses, and you will show some losses. And then for those periods of times, you will be running maybe a few trades in a row at a loss, and your PCR will be negative. You see, you'll be losing 250% of the initial premium for several trades, maybe in a row. So you will be underperforming for a period of time. But if you take everything into account and over long periods of times, when you put it all together, you should converge somewhere on that, whatever the premium capture rate is. In this case, let's say 29% minus commissions, and let's say 26, just to be on a safe side. And this is where my unified options trading strategy the one right here, comes in to amortize these losses, because the PDS campaign that goes hand in hand with this naked put campaign will be showing profit when this trade is showing a loss. And the equity line for with debit spread campaign looks more like this. It goes time over long periods of time, and then it jumps up a little bit, then it goes down, 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 and then it jumps up a little bit. And the goal for this PDS campaign is not to show much profit. We are happy if we can come anywhere close to break even over long periods of time. Let's say we start here and then end up somewhere in this neighborhood. We would be happy. We're not looking to profit. We just want to have these benefit of these jumps right here, or jumps when the market is going down, grinding down, and we are collecting a little bit of premium from both sides. And this is what makes our trade strong, and probably much stronger than naked puts themselves would be. And instead of going, like crazy up and down, we're smoothing the ride a bit, and we're reaching the same goal with less stress and some other benefits that we'll talk about in a different video. But I think that's all for today. I don't want to go too long, and I think this is enough. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like it, subscribe, and click the notifications to get notified when I post my next video. And in the meantime, have a great day. See you soon. Thanks.